Buongiorno, everybody. So go through what went down today, at least, and what I kind of saw, and yeah, we'll move from there. Anybody take trades today during New York? Hey, Jet. Kim, what's up? GU during New York. All right. Let's have a quick peek at that first. GU. I'm guessing lots on GU in London. All right. So where did you take your trades, guys? In there. All right. Yeah, that's reasonable. Cool. And the flip. Are you still in? Break even. All right. Cool. It's all good. 2, 4. All right. Okay, well, I'm not going to break these down because I didn't take any of these. Yeah, there's nothing super clear. So I am going to show the position that I'm in, and I'm going to tell you why. And it's not necessarily something that perfectly correlates with our flow chart. But again, I just want to show what's going on, what my thought process is. These are things that don't necessarily correlate directly with the flowchart model. I don't always follow the model. The reason I'm able to develop the system that we have is by trying new things and trying to understand, how things are sort of working. So with that being said, what I ended up looking at was on USD CAD. So let me go to the 4 hours so you can kind of see a little bit more of what's going on. I'm just going to go to a daily first. So in the narrative from last night, what I ended up talking about was obviously, we're sitting here at these highs. It seems like we're having issues sort of breaking through. Typically when that happens, what the market's going to want to do is grab from somewhere and then possibly move forward. So you can see it grab from here, push down. We had an order flow shift happening in here, which is the reason why I started looking for sells in here last week. Now, obviously fast forward to today's price action, and you can kind of see, obviously, like we are at the original order flow shift that happens down in here. It's from a relevant flip zone over here on the weekly. Just some confluence sort of building around good reactions to potentially trade. Doesn't mean it's going to work. It's just, yeah, I'm trading probabilities in terms of where am I going to see a nice reaction from? Is there a potential for a swing trade on my personal account? And that's kind of what I did for this. So personal account has just kind of been more of like a testing and more like higher time frame sort of narrative stuff. So if you look right now, obviously, like we're in the absolute most premium area of the most recent price within these regions. So my rationale in this area, so you can just kind of see where price is messing about. You can see we get no closures above this level. Obviously, we're building liquidity for some sort of a move at some point, but usually if we're having issues kind of getting through, we want to be able to take from somewhere to be able to fuel that move, right? That's typically how the way that we sort of interpret liquidity concepts. So let's get down onto just lower time frame stuff so that I can explain just again my thought process. And I'm just moved over to break even, haven't taken a partial or anything. I'm just looking at how this is going to act. And honestly, the way that it's developed so far is kind of you'll see on the lower time frame, but I just want to show you guys what it is that I was looking for. We are at a high point, just converted USD into Canadian because of it. Yeah, exactly. So basically what I'd saw is obviously we don't get a structure shift, right? Like the structure, like because we came in so aggressively into this level, I'm kind of suspicious of So if we look over, actually, let me go down to a 4 hour so we can actually look at some of these details. But if you look at just how this sort of formed, right, and we had tons of available liquidity in here to be able to take into the extreme. We've actually liquidated just above the extreme, which is another reason why I was kind of interested in this position. It just showed that, like, obviously the price wasn't immediately looking to continue this way. So what I ended up doing was just kind of trying to understand what that where the reaction was going to come from. So you can see if you snap a line across, we essentially, just to say liquidate above, we get a big bearish engulfing candle. So on the lower time frame, looking into details, I'm sure you can kind of see what it is that I looked for. But if I look at this right now, this looked like a lot of built up liquidity to be able to take into an extreme. So you can see we have a very small break of structure. We come down, we push up. And again, it doesn't mean this is going to end up holding. I'm just looking at it as, technically, the way that I see this is that if I was in a long from way the hell down there, I would be looking to hedge out my position from here. And that's kind of how I rationalize this entire thing. So thought process wise, what I ended up doing was I looked at this. I knew that this was essentially, like, we needed a level to be able to take. You can see a very small break of structure that happens in here. And what I looked at is, because we had that boss, now we have a level of liquidity or something to induce, and you can see just a lot of people getting involved here. So our liquidity concepts work with, like, if we have something to take and we have something to target, we can kind of pull trigger on the overall idea, at least is the theory. And again, it doesn't mean it's going to hold or anything like that. I'm just getting involved because there was a very high probability for a reaction. And I'm just going to jump down onto our lower time frame stuff so that you can understand, again, just the thought process and just the idea behind everything. So if you look over to the left-hand side, we don't have anything that's super, super clear. So what I ended up doing was saying, okay, obviously, if I see this as a leg that could potentially, continue downwards, whatever it is, and this is ultimately a break of structure, I'm seeing this as a potential swing, potential come up and then break down. At least, yeah, in my eyes, that's something that could potentially happen, especially because of how premiumly priced we are. So what I ended up doing was just kind of flicking between time frames and trying to understand, where, liquidity is built in the market. So first thing I noticed, I believe, was on a 5, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And then getting down into lower time frame stuff as well. So over on the left hand side, if you look over, you can see this little guy right here. I'm just going to jump down onto a lower time frame, onto a 2-minute, I believe is where I grabbed it from. So I saw this, okay, and this is over to the left hand side. And again, this is more like a hedge position that I was looking to kind of play into. I wasn't really super aggressively looking. I just had an alert set just above that most recent high that we had, and the confirmations gave something to me, so I got involved. So ultimately, if you look, you can see that this area sort of gets mitigated. We could come up to the extreme, something like this, but the bottom line is we had this beautiful 2-minute POI that got tapped into, right, and it didn't quite get mitigated. It's just something that got tapped. So what I ended up doing is snapping over across and saying, okay, like, if I was looking at this as a novice sort of smart money concepts trader, what would I be looking to trade, right? And more often than not, people are going to look to trade in this level right here. So I'm just going to snap this across so that we can look at it, right? So that usually tells me that there's going to be liquidity above these regions to be able to kind of fuel where I would like to get involved. So first thing right here. Now what I want to do is jump down onto my 1 minute. First thing I notice is, obviously, like, we don't get anything substantial for an order flow shift or a change of character. Obviously, we could consider maybe something in here, but we can see that we're like building. There's tons of liquidity built in the direction that I would like to trade ideally. However, at this given time right here, we just don't get that change of character. So I'm looking for at least a 1 minute chalk and flip on a refined POI to be able to look for something. So what I ended up doing is realizing that, okay, we had tapped in, we got a nice reaction, we swept the reaction, and then I saw this level right here get taken out. So you can imagine where I'm going with this. I essentially saw this level sort of get taken out right here at this demand, this push through. This is the basically the start of the push up. And what I did is, I'll just map this guy out. Change of character, or at least the initial order flow shift. And again, because of how specific this POI was, it basically gave me no reason to not consider taking the position at this level. So 1 minute, so order flow shift. Okay, that happens right here. And what I ended up looking for was, okay, well, what caused this to happen? So I jumped down onto lower time frame stuff, of course, to be able to kind of confirm what was going on. And you could see that in this case, we had an extreme that pushes and takes liquidity, right? So this entire region right here, I think I got involved right around this level of that. Yeah, it was just a market execution and knew that there was going to be some form of reaction. We had this nice steep V-shaped recovery. We had liquidity to take from the market right here. We pushed down, induced into the level perfectly, and we got a nice, really strong delivery away from it. So right now I'm just sitting over at break even. My exact pricing for getting in is 1.307607.6, or sorry, 7, yeah. Where is that? 7.6. Oh, so somewhere in here is where my market fill got in, right around this region. So just FYI, and just covered the high. I think it was like a 2.5 or 3 pip stop. Where are we? 6.0. Yeah, I think it was a 3 pip stop is what I ended up leaving it at. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm sitting right now. So just again, just to remain transparent, I'd like to potentially post a reel on this later on today and a recap for Instagram and be able to kind of show my thought process on everything. And the way that I sort of viewed this again was not that I'm going to necessarily swing for the fences on it, but I mean, it's a great opportunity to trade a reaction, potentially at a very, very premiumly priced area. And yeah, I'd be silly not to get involved, especially because my rules sort of lined up with lower time frame confirmations. And now I'm just waiting to see whether or not something is actually going to happen here. Chances are we'll end up continuing higher, but this is the only thing that I really saw that I liked, especially with where we were priced and how high up we were, to be able to take some sort of a sell. Obviously, taking sells deeper and deeper on like EU and GU is not something that I'm super favorable of until we see some sort of a complex pullback to start to see larger time frame sweep or something like that to be able to get me more enticed into the market. So like I said, this is the idea that I sort of traded today. Could be a break-even day, could end up running pretty far. So like I said, if I'm going to talk about targets and just the way that I sort of viewed this on the 15 was kind of like where my whole rationale was, and everything that sort of stemmed off of this. I just saw lots of liquidity to be able to take. Now we have liquidity to potentially target. We're super high up in price. Ideally, we're going to want to take out some lows of some sort to be able to potentially fuel this move up to the upside. So yeah, for me, the logic was to essentially just take this and ideally take it into, they don't even necessarily need to be weak lows. I probably take a good part of my profits off at the demand level down in here. Otherwise, just take a full volume break even. But yeah, I'm looking at this, and like ultimately, if I was looking at this and thinking like, okay, how are we going to break through this? I mean, could we break through like this? Of course we could. I think it would be more logical or more sensible to be able to take out these late buyers, sweep them out, and then be able to kind of come through here. So again, this is just kind of like a little bit of a toy around in what I'm looking at. This is more of like a hedge-based approach, like I mentioned. And yeah, that's my trade idea for today. So does that make sense to everybody? And again, do you guys even find this, drop a 1 if you find this stuff helpful, even if I'm taking stuff outside of the plan, or if you just don't want to hear about it unless it correlates with the plan, drop a 2. I just like to kind of, yeah, like I said, just kind of talk about what it is that I'm looking at. And yeah, the reason I got involved with this is just because we are so premiumly priced. It didn't make sense to me to not even consider getting involved at all. Undecided. Well, as long as it's not hurtful to you to see that like this is why I got involved, and it's not going to screw up your head for positions for you later on. Like I said, it's just something that I think is valuable to see, that like I don't necessarily always trade my rules either. We're constantly looking for new models, better models, ways to improve. So yeah, this is kind of like yeah, I knew there was going to be some form of a strong reaction, and to move me over to break even was not a big deal. Cool. I don't think there was any other positions that EU, GU, yeah, there wasn't a whole lot. You could have potentially got involved in this flip zone, I guess to a certain degree, especially after a take on liquidity. We can break that down too, actually, and just have a quick peek on GU. Okay, boom. Let me actually get this. Let's see what happens in here. So we get the 1 minute, so pro trend, pro order flow, we get the liquidation, we come back down. And I'm guessing a lot of you guys probably got involved at this flip zone as we tapped in, would be my guess. And yeah, I would probably wait for a little bit further development on this. I would like to see something along the lines of this, push down, come back into the extreme that actually takes liquidity, and then be able to actually play this down would probably be a little bit of a better or safer sort of bet. Playing off of this is a little bit of a FOMO play, at least in my opinion. Usually we want to see liquidity develop in our direction to be able to then sweep and then be able to get in at a really good area for a reaction, right? That's the whole reason why we use that LTT theory. It doesn't mean it's not valid. I think it's just a little bit rushed getting involved here. There's not a lot of liquidity stacked up in here in terms of just mitigation. So yeah, ideally you'd want to see something sweep back up, have equals to go after, and then drop down like a bag of bricks. Cool. Any questions? Excuse me. All right. If not, we're going to be bumping over to tomorrow for our live trading session. So I'm going to put the FOMCs at 2 o'clock, I believe. So we're going to have our live trading session tomorrow. And case study building session, we are, what time does that go? I won't be able to do it Friday. Like I said, I've got a travel day going back to visit family. So I think what we'll do is we'll do the same thing we did last week and bump that over to Sunday. That way I can actually go over with a fine tooth comb and find like a good case study that I want to go and actually look at. We are going to introduce our new scheduling system, I think next week. So I will be putting out the proposed schedule probably a little bit later on today or tomorrow. And so just FYI, anybody who's in here tomorrow will be our live trading session, just because Friday I'm not available. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. Hit me up if there's any questions or anything like that. Remember, don't force trades, especially when you get deeper and deeper into price. It's you're asking for trouble to a certain degree. You need to be very cautious of what the market is looking to do next. And once we end up breaking weekly levels, daily levels over to the left-hand side, all of these larger swing structure points, the next move in the market is obviously to start pulling back. So just be very cautious of how you're doing it. Obviously take sells until sells stop working, but don't keep forcing sells if obviously order flow is switching on you. So we'll get into that a little bit more tomorrow. We'll get into some of the live market stuff and talking about what the next moves are. And then we'll start actually looking at building some case studies around what the next price should be. So have a good day, guys, and I will catch you guys a little bit later on.